Climbers, I got an interesting question through my email the other day from someone in the community. How do you stay inspired to write songs? They're having trouble with it. I'm going to give you the answer here because I think a lot of you may have trouble with it too, and this is too good not to share. So listen up because we want you to win.
Welcome to the Club! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music industry, the music business. That's what you're going to need. Leverage, a track record. You got a proof that people like it. It ain't just a concept. It's proof of concept. When you have enough proof of concept, that's called leverage. Everybody comes to you. It's that simple. You don't need anybody's permission, but you got to create the leverage yourself. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. That's so brilliant. That's so good. That's a backronym for my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who is a hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Had a couple number ones in the last couple of years at Southern Gospel. He's making miracles happen in Southern Gospel, in country. He's making miracles happen in bluegrass. He's everywhere. He's like Superman. All right. And what I love about
Or
Brent
the streak. Or the streak.
Or the streak.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
He helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro. And once those two stars align, then you're ready for some relationships, and he makes that happen too. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D. Johnny, what's up? How you doing?
How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm great. The Hogs played last night. At the time of this recording, beat Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Gonzaga. And we're gone to the Elite Eight.
And they were the underdog in that game.
Oh, man, we're always the underhog, man. So
the underhog.
At the time of this recording, we get to play Duke tomorrow night. So that'd be over by the time y'all hear this. But I think it's the first time we played Duke since we beat them for the Natty back in '94. So all kinds of good memories. And so wow. I'm fired up. And of course, if it's already over and Duke beats us, well, then we had a heck of a run. But if we beat Duke, then we still running.
That's right. Hey, that's good. Already your alumni donations went up just for being in the Elite Eight, baby. That's like, okay, there's potential here.
That's good for the school. That's good for the school. Good for the school.
That's right.
Hey, man, all three money sports, or football, basketball, and baseball, have all been ranked in the top 10 at some point in the past calendar year. So it's good to be an Archie.
Killer.
It's good to be an Archie right now.
It's good to be an Archie. I love it. I love it. What are we going to learn today? Inspiration?
Yes. So a question came across my desk. Said, "Hey Brent, my question is, how do you stay inspired to write new songs? I've written a couple, but I have trouble thinking of new ideas." I thought it was a great question. I'm sure a lot of writers deal with it. Obviously, I have to deal with it because I continually write songs. And so I wanted to dive into that today, see if I can provide some value to y'all climbers out there.
Is that just lyric inspiration, or are we talking melody and music inspiration?
It just, how do you stay inspired to write new songs? So, okay. I attack it more.
I got some opinions on that.
Oh, good. Because, I look at things more from a lyric angle because that's what I do. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on it too. So we're going to dive in, and I think it'd be fun.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's take care of a little business.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We want you to join the C.L.I.M.B community on Facebook. This is a thriving group. It's growing every day. Singers, songwriters, indie artists, indie musicians, people helping people are the most wonderful people. We've got like-mindedness in there. We got people hooking up with co-writes from not one, not two, but 3 different countries and making money on those. We put those people on dang podcast because it's just a vulgar display of prowess. And people asking marketing questions, responding. Like Brent and I are constantly, if we see something that we think would be valuable to the community in terms of news, we're going to put that up there and try to inform you of it. So it can be like a pseudo aggregate sort of news feed for you, an information feed, a place hub, if you will, to go and be a part of the community, ask questions, get answers, all that. And listen, you got to ask to be let in, but we let everybody in. Okay. And know this, we want to hear about your gigs. We want to hear about your song. We want you to brag about yourself, but you got to do it in the right places. If you do it in the wrong places, let me just point it. I just thought of this the other day. Let me just point this out. Like, when you come into a community that's like, we want to hear all about it, but in this room over here, and you're like, no, I'm going to talk about it right here.
Right.
Then it's almost like social proof positive that you're a tool. Or that you're so unaware.
Yeah.
You lack so much self-awareness that you can't possibly be of value to this community. So keep that in mind. I mean, when I just, from my perspective, when I see that, when I see somebody put a feed of, hey, just came out with a new song, or here's our gig in Seattle, and you've got it on the feed and it's not where it's supposed to be, the first thing that comes to my mind, whether it's right or it's wrong, you can call me a judgmental SOB. I'm like, you're an idiot.
First thing I think,
like, how else would you have found out about this community? Because you heard us on the podcast.
I'm figuring what my theory is some people, they run across it because they look for singer, songwriter, artist communities, and it comes up, or they're just searching for groups, and we let them in, and then they're just spamming and jamming, man. They're just spamming and just going through and dropping links in all the groups and not even paying attention to what group they're in. Just like, I'm in this group, spray and pray. So they can go.
You will. I tell you, on that point, I think you've actually. You have articulated in beautiful words so much better what I'm feeling than I did myself. Okay.
Lyricist.
And that is it's like, you're not there to give a damn thing.
Not to give. Right.
You're just there to take. You just come right in the door and you're like, where's the beer at? I'm hungry. What's your name? Hey, make me something to eat. Right. Like, hi, I'm Johnny. Like, why are you here? Oh, because I'm awesome.
Because I saw a bunch of cars and it looks like a party. Where's the cake?
It's a pleasure for you to know me. That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we just knew it was a party, so we just came in, and you're like, no, get the hell out.
Yeah.
Get out. So hey, man, there's only 3 freaking rules, I think, right? Like,
basically, probably.
We're in the music industry. We don't like a lot of rules.
Don't give me no rules.
Right. I got a rule. You can color on the walls if you want. Just color on the walls in the right room. Exactly. That's all you got to do. We got any wins?
Yes, of course we do. We always have some wins in here. So you know the rules, in case you're new here, because you probably are scared off by now. Johnny gets very passionate. But every Wednesday that I'm on my game, we post the New Heights post. So it's just a post in the Facebook group, and that's where we encourage you to share your wins. So you just comment under that post, so everyone knows where all the fun stuff is for that, and they can go and they can see the wins, and they can start conversations and share and all that good stuff. So it's in one spot, which makes it a lot more findable. So a couple this time, we have Kathy Wallace, who says, had a great write in Nashville yesterday. She's from Missouri, but she was making a trip into Nashville. Said a publisher meeting this morning, an A&R meeting this afternoon, and another write tonight. Plus enjoyed great live music, making every minute here count. Love that, Kathy. I know that feeling.
Love it.
And of course, you have people like Sunday Joe and Randy England cheering her on. Because that's the deal here. You post to win, and you're going to have somebody in the community, especially as they get to know you and you get to know them, commenting and making relationships, and it's a beautiful thing. We have climber and podcast guest on the video content challenge, Carrie Cunningham. Because I think her episode of video content challenge has more than anyone else's. As far as video content challenges, I think she shared it around. So thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
She has started or finished 30 songs so far in 2022. So at the time of this recording, it's getting to be late March. So still working on the rewrites. So good job, Carrie. And let's see what else we have here. We have, also from Carrie, today's AJ Ragg's latest release, We Were the Band, is featured on social media influencer Scott's Cake Love, latest cake making skills. I guess that's maybe YouTube or something. But I'm the co-writer and also co-produced it along with being his vocal producer. So the cake and the song go well together. So that's awesome. So finding other ways, how do you get to 7, right?
Yeah.
She's finding other ways to get one of hers. I guess she's not the artist, but AJ Rags getting his song used in a different context to get people to hear it. And hopefully they hear it and go, what is that? That's cool. So we have other wins, but we would just like to kind of go down the list and pick a couple of them. So that's a few wins. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for sharing that with us, and keep on climbing.
There we go. All right. So yeah, congrats to everybody. Carrie Cunningham, vulgar display of prowess. Love you. You're doing great.
Yes.
Make sure that you subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you consume the podcast. Leave a rating and review on iTunes before they take it away, just because you should. It's the right thing to do. And and tell a friend about it. That's the big deal, man. You spent all this time with us, Brent, and I are very, very grateful. We know that you come by this. You're not on an outreach program for us, man. You're getting something out of this. We're here to give you something to get out of it. So spread it around. Tell some other people. Tell a musician. Tell a songwriter. Tell an artist. Hey, there's some great stuff on here. Check this out. Let them know what your favorite episode is. Share that episode. And they make it real easy on these podcast platforms to do that. It's like 2 clicks, man. Just go and do it,
Yeah, we appreciate it.
and let everybody know. All right. So inspire me with your inspirational story on inspiration.
Yep. So again, the question came in, Brent, my question is, how do you stay inspired to write new songs? All right. So I've written, I don't know how many songs, in the 4 figures of songs, and many other song starts and everything. And I thought it was a great question. So maybe you deal with this yourself, Climber. So let's dive into it. My first point is, if I feel like the Hulk at the end of the Avengers, you want to know my secret? I'm always angry, right? My secret is, you want to know my secret to staying inspired? I don't rely on inspiration.
Ooh,
I don't rely on inspiration.
Hello.
Yeah. You know who does rely on inspiration? The amateur. The professional is not afforded the luxury of waiting on inspiration to find me. I cannot rely
Didn't see
upon
that coming. I didn't see that ambush coming.
Yeah,
Did
it's true
not
though.
see that.
It's a different way of thinking about it. It's like, well, inspiration, why would I wait on that? Right?
Yeah.
That's what amateurs do. I mean, you ever hear of a plumber having like plumber's block, like writer's block? Like, dude, I just don't know if I can.
I've heard of a plumber removing some blockages, but
and plumber's crack, right? But not plumber's block. They remove blockages. Exactly. You don't I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like crawling under that house, but it's not like I just can't crawl under that house. I just can't get under that sink. No, you don't hear of it's tax season, right? So you don't hear about accountants getting CPA block. I don't know, man. Just can't add today. I just can't do the ledgers today. I'm just not feeling it. No. Why?
Yeah.
Because just because our work may be more mysterious than, say, a truck driver's or a newscaster's, doesn't mean that we're at the mercy of inspiration. Those people aren't, they aren't at the mercy of it. We just look at ours sometimes as the creative pursuits as being at the mercy of inspiration. And some of this I'm stealing from Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The War of Art. Some of this mindset and probably phraseology and stuff comes from him. But he's like, you know what? If you have a day job outside of music, you're already a professional in that job, right? In some area of your life, you're probably already a professional. And what do professionals do? They show up every day. They stay until the workday is over. And they work even when they don't feel like it. Okay? Well, guess what? If you want to be a professional songwriter or an artist or whatever, you got to do the same thing. You got to show up every day. You got to work till the end of the day. And you got to show up even when you're not really feeling it. So
that's right.
So for myself, I'm often not inspired by a particular idea when I sit down to write. Now, I love it when that happens, right? But it's rare that I just so happens as I sit down, an idea hits me during my work day where I can go, oh, here we go. Let's go. Let's start writing this sucker. Can't wait. Just out of the blue. Usually if that happens, again, it's rare these days, but that'll happen when I'm hanging out with the kids and I get an idea, or I'm supposed to be about, or I'm lying in bed about to go to sleep and something hits me because I'm listening to music and I get inspired or whatever, but not usually during my normal day work hours. Just doesn't happen much. So what do I do to keep coming up with new songs and song ideas? There are a couple things I do. So these are some things that hopefully will be actionable for you, the techniques that you can use to not wait on inspiration. You can go out and chase it. I believe that inspiration is like a woman. Inspiration wants to be wooed. Wants to know that you're serious about this relationship before they commit. Right? Why would the muse grace me with her presence if I'm just sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, or I'm just not doing anything to show up? Right? But I found out that if I do the work, inspiration will go, okay, he's serious. I'll grace him with my presence. I'll show up if he shows up first. You go first. I'll be fashionably late. You be all dressed up. You knock on the door. Come, you're standing at the bottom
I'll
of the
be
stairs,
fashionably late.
and I will come down the stairs after you really want it, and you're still there. And I will come down the stairs, and you will be glad you waited for me, right? But you got to do
Worth
the
the
work and
wait.
show up. You got to get dressed. You got to drive over and knock on the door. Come in. All right, come in. And you got there, and I'm thinking of like prom. You got the boutonniere. I got the corsage. I'm waiting
Yeah.
at the bottom of the stairs, going, okay, I'm done my stuff. I'm here. I'm ready. Like she doesn't just show up in the prom dress at your house, and you're still like in your boxers and whatever. Going, what?
With like Cheeto dust on your fingers and all over your
Exactly.
face.
It
Like,
doesn't
oh,
happen.
hold on a sec. Let me go take a quick shower and I'll be down in a sec.
Exactly.
No.
And inspiration's like, okay, I'll wait for you. No, it doesn't. So these are things that I do to get dressed up, get my tux on, rent the limo, and pull out all the stops and go knock on her door and be like, Juliet, wherefore art thou? But I'm going to the party with or without you. So come on. All right. So the first thing I do, and we've talked about this some on the podcast, but I do my daily title habit, which is my goal is to every day, and these days is more every work day because my book. So I have all these little notebooks and journals and stuff. So I have one right here, my little black book of hooks, and I keep it out in my office where I'm working. And every day, that's my goal is to write down a title, come up with the title somehow, some way. Let's see, James Clear has a book called, Atomic Habits. And he talks about habit stacking. And so what got me into this habit, what got me going was what habit do I already have that I do every day? And that's take my vitamins in the morning. At least at that point in my life, I was taking vitamins first thing in the morning. And so I put this little black book right beside my vitamins. And so every time I went to go get my vitamins, I'd see that black book, and that would remind me, oh yeah, I need to come up with a title today. So it was a set. They call it habit stacking. I'm stacking one new habit on top of an existing habit. So that's my habit. Johnny, we've talked about, keeping it right there by your toilet paper, right? Because you have
Yeah.
a daily thing that you probably take care of every day. And like, well, I
Why
got a
not?
minute or 20, depending
Yeah.
on how your life is. And here's this book where I can write down titles, right? And so I try to do that every day. And what helps keep me honest on that is I have another little black book. It's a habit tracker book I got for like $7 off Amazon. And, you can list these different habits and check them off every day for like a year and see if you've been doing it. And one of my habits, my daily habits, is daily title. Did I come up with a title today? No, they're not all going to be great. Most of them are not great. But as we found with doing our song title challenges, sometimes there's more there than you think. And the thing is, I can't write an idea based off a title if I don't have a title. So that's one thing I try to do every day is my daily title habit. And I mark it on my calendar so I know if I did it or not. Last night was a busy day. We did like 4 podcast episodes yesterday. I had a jam session in Co-Writer Cafe for the Songwriting Pro community. I had dinner with in-laws. It was just like a busy day. And you know what? When I'm looking through my habit tracker book, I'm like, you know what? I haven't done my daily title yet for the day. So I ended up writing one down at like 9:30 p.m. last night. Would have been super easy to forget if I didn't have that habit tracker book to ping me. So what gets measured gets managed. I measure that stuff. So I came up with the title last night that I wouldn't have otherwise because I want to get that mark on my calendar because once that day is passed, I can't ever go back and mark it. I can't go back in time. So that's one thing I do is start getting filling up the top of the funnel, the fat end of the funnel where all the stuff comes in. So I do that, my daily title habit. The other thing I do is most every day I do the song title challenge, my personal song title challenge. So if you've heard them on the show, you know about these. It's low stakes, and that's when I'm inviting inspiration. And I am almost never inspired when I sit down and open up the documents to get going on my daily song title challenge. Now, the more I do it, the more I'm inspired going, ooh, what might happen today? But I'm not inspired by a particular idea. With my personal song title challenge, I'm just working down the next 10 titles in my list going, what's next? I got to pick one of these. Actually, it's 20. I go through like 20 at a time and I'll pick one out. And then, I don't even use a timer anymore just because I'm so used to it. But at the beginning, I'd set my timer for 10 minutes. So it's low stakes and go, okay, I picked my best title out of that 20. Let's dive in and see what's there. And almost without fail, without 5 or 10 minutes into it, something clicks and I get an idea and I start getting inspired. But I'm almost never inspired when I first start off. Like when I'm opening the documents, my unwritten titles list, I don't know what I'm going to write. I'm not inspired by any particular thing. But then I start working and then inspiration usually shows up. You look like you want to say
Yeah.
something,
So let's just hold on. Let's go down that rabbit hole for a
Johnny.
second. So this brings me back to the John Cleese story
Yes.
of Monty Python, where which is kind of the inspiration for Song Title Challenge came from a climber who sort of called us out in a good way, like a challenge way.
Yeah.
On where was that on?
It was on iTunes. It was an iTunes review.
It was an on iTunes review where he's like, I want to hear you guys write a song, right? And I think you have the best way to describe that. It's just not a spectator sport, man.
Right, yeah.
And it's certainly not an audio spectator sport.
Right.
Like, listening to somebody, watching somebody try to do it would be bad enough, right?
Yeah.
And it would be just like a snoozer. But then listening is just even worse. It just would not translate. So you and I cooked up the idea of what if we just did this song title thing and did the challenge? Well, and then the other part of that, like I remember thinking this when we came up with Song Title Challenge, was the story about John Cleese and Monty Python, and he was always talking about one of his compadres in the Monty Python group, which is, if you don't know who Monty Python is, first of all, shame on you. You should know. Secondly, it's this huge comedy, this comedy troupe of people who just created so much amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the people in that group who he didn't name, right? Because he didn't want to call him out or be mean, but he would always be like, oh, well, we've got a line. That's funny. Now we're good. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And John would be like, no, we've got to, and I think I heard this in a speech where he was kind of saying the same message you are, right? It's like creativity is a discipline, right? It's you have to show up to be creative, and then you have to put in the time. And he's like, no, we're going to continue working on this for the next 15 minutes. And it was like usually the last 5 minutes of that next 15 minutes is when they got the really, really good, clever angle. And so he's like, consequently, like my stuff was used more than his stuff, because my stuff was more clever. And it's only because he looked at it the way that you're talking about it, like within a professional work kind of a framework, And so I love that. And we've proven it time and time again live right here on this podcast where we have guests come in and we go down that road, and we've had songs now that have gotten cut and gotten synced. We've had songs that have gotten cut from that I'd say the artists have, the writers have, but like it would just sort of sprung a little bit of inspiration sprung from the Song Title Challenge part of it. But the idea of that you can go back to, like, as you were mentioning before, to early in your hook book, and you're going to choose these next group of 20 songs. I'm going to pick one from there. I'm going to do a Song Title Challenge on it. And then just by thinking about it differently, that tool, that mental tool that you use, which is Song Title Challenge, which requires 15 minutes. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to think about this a different way. And all of a sudden, pow, that's because you went digging for the inspiration. Yeah. It didn't just blow across your desert front porch like a tumbleweed.
Right.
You had to go digging for it, like for gold. And then you're like, oh, here we go. There it is. But you got to pick up that shovel. And you gotta put your back into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, how do I stay inspired? Start before I'm inspired.
Yeah.
So
you don't wait to be inspired to start working.
Exactly, because that's a terrible strategy if you want to be a professional. If you want to be an amateur,
it's a terrible strategy try keeping a job at McDonald's and only coming in when you're inspired.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
People try that, and even at McDonald's they don't last.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Yes. Would you like fired with that? Okay. So doesn't work.
That's good.
All right. So, yes, I don't I don't wait for inspiration. I go chasing it. And I heard I don't remember who the writer was. It was a pro writer, talked about, he said, I don't write, it's like, don't write when you're inspired, write until you're inspired.
There you go.
And there you go. That's it. That's like, okay, if you want to be professional, you can't wait on your feelings.
I like that. Say that again.
Yes. Don't write when you're inspired, write until you're inspired. Show up.
And so I want to, like, one of the lessons I learned, like, as an artist, and it also, so if I view myself as an artist in the marketing world now, right? It's just I'm playing a different song. I'm creating something different,
Yeah.
right? But the one of the biggest lessons I learned was, is there, because sometimes she does show up in the prom dress when you're sitting on the couch with a bag full of Cheetos, and and you got your fat pants on, and you're just you're not expecting it in any way, shape, or form, and
Right.
she shows up on the door and knocks in the prom dress. And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like so many times I've been like, not today, I'm watching a TV show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you turn her away, and she's like, okay, and off she goes to inspire somebody else, right? But I always call it, and I tell this to my artists, like when I'm developing, I was like, honor the muse. So like when it does show up, right? When it does show up, you've got to honor the muse. You get to drop everything that you're doing and just write it down if it's a lyric idea. For me, a lot of times it was a musical idea, and I would have one of those little hand recorders, those little micro cassette recorder things, and you got to like play the lick, right? Like on the guitar or something, because I'll tell you what, like this is really weird and really ethereal, but we're all musicians and we'll get it. If you've ever heard a pro guitar player, or if you can imagine like two guitar players, one's an amateur, one's a pro, and they're both playing the same lick, and they're both playing the same notes, and it's not like one is not like a fumbled or it's not a catastrophe in the sense that it's out of time, but what's the difference between the two? It's the feel, right? It's like where they're putting that phrasing musically in relation to the beat. Well, when you come up with something like that in your head, and you sort of have this feel that you have in your head, that in the sense that you have this melody or a guitar lick or a groove, and its relationship to the beat in your head, if you don't like record it on something really quick, and now we just have iPhones, you can just throw it out right there, then I would go back afterwards and play the same notes, and I couldn't reconnect with the feel. Like, it was so weird because I didn't put that part of it down. You know what I mean? So that's where I was just like, sometimes like, gosh, and I'm like, I'm just I'm making sure that it's very clear when I come back as a complete moron tomorrow and I've forgotten about this whole thing, that I can pick up on that feel. And so that's like me telling myself in the future, like, hey, dummy, this is how it's supposed to go. I give you the famous Keith Richards Rolling Stone story of Satisfaction. Am I getting ahead of you? Did you already have that?
No, but I just know the story, and that fits it.
Yeah, I mean, he woke up in the middle of the night and had Satisfaction came to him in a dream, and he recorded it right then and there on something that was by his bedside table, went back to sleep, woke up the next morning, didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can imagine Keith Richards, I'm sure he was sober as a judge when that happened.
Right.
Of course he didn't remember it, but then he's like, oh, and then it turns into their signature song that put them on the map, and that whole thing. So that's honoring the muse. Like sometimes when that happens in the middle of the night, do not roll over and go back to sleep. Get up, turn on the light, write that down, get it out, and then go back to sleep. Like, because then you can start stacking that stuff up, and it's not forsaken. Because I lost a lot that way doing that, man.
Yeah, it's so important. So it's filling up the top of that funnel. Hopefully what comes out of that funnel is a good song. And so it takes a lot in the front end of that funnel. For me, it's titles. Yeah, for other people, it may be licks. It may be bits of melody. You got to capture that stuff because maybe you don't have time to sit down right then and like work on the whole thing. But you save them up, and then when it's kind of giving you a running start for when you do have your time that hopefully you're scheduling. And,
Yeah.
sometimes you just write because it pops up. Hey, great. Other times it's scheduled, and you sit down and it kind of gives you a running start. You have something, you're not starting from zero. I mean, the blank page is like a bully. It will yell
Yeah.
things at you that you hope your mama never hears.
That's right.
And all kinds of things about your, how you're faking it as a creative and all that stuff. You're a fraud, all that stuff. But man, if I can start off with a not blank page, that gives me tremendous leverage over that bully. You want my lunch money? Well, guess you what? I got a whole roll of quarters here. It's in my fist. You're about to get my lunch money, right?
Pow.
Oh, right there. I gave my lunch money upside his nose. So yeah. Filling up the top of that funnel. Now, what are some other ways to get titles? Let's, I guess, maybe back up a little bit, dive into that. Is again filling up the top of that funnel. I have various exercises. One is called buried treasure, and that's when you go down the rabbit hole of, I still have a CD rack behind me in my office here. Don't have a CD player unless I hook an external one up to my laptop, but I still have all the booklets that, you love it when they put the lyrics in there. And the other day I was flipping through, just not looking for titles of the songs, but within the lyric, the body of the lyric, looking for interesting phrases that could be a title. Why? Because I want to get my daily title. I want to mark that off. And so that's looking within songs for phrases that could be a title of your song. So again, I'm not jacking somebody's title. Now, we all end up writing the same titles by accident, but I just don't want to know I'm doing it, right?
Right.
Because you can't copyright a title, so it's fine. But I just don't want to know I'm doing it. But I'm looking within the body of lyrics for that. You can use lyric videos. You can just go down the rabbit trail on your streaming service if they show lyric in genres you don't normally listen to, and just start looking through lyrics, going, is there a phrase here that's interesting? Books of poetry, chapter titles, book titles. Go on to Amazon and put in a search under books for like love or deception or what, and just see what like book titles come up. And there might be a book title. You're like, oh, there's one, might be interesting. Same kind of thing.
Michael Garvin
Uh-huh.
is a friend. Like he wrote God, he's written like Merle Haggard songs. He wrote Waiting for Tonight for Jennifer Lopez. I mean,
Yeah.
he's all over the map, right? He's done a ton of killer stuff. He floored me one day. What's up? He's like, I get a lot of titles from watching sitcoms.
Oh.
I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Like, have you ever done that? I'm like, I've watched a lot of sitcoms. He's like, no, but have you ever just not watched the sitcom to be entertained, but actually just hyper focused on the dialogue? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no. And he's like, you're welcome. But I was just like, what? And if you go just like, and just really focus on the dialogue, and like maybe nowadays you can just click that caption thing
Yeah.
on your TV and you can watch the dialogue and don't even look at the show.
Yeah. We're
Just listen and read the dialogue, and in less than an hour, you probably come up with 2-3 different little clever ideas that are really, really smart,
yeah.
it's like a never ending well of inspiration right there for title stuff. It's interesting.
I mean, one of at least for me, a famous example of that is from Jerry Maguire. You Had Me from Hello.
Yeah.
And then that goes on to be
Yeah.
a Kenny Chesney, probably number one for him. He and Skip Ewing wrote. So
Yeah, and that's like listen, okay, that's a very, very obvious example,
yes,
right?
it is.
Because that was an iconic,
It was built to be
like
that
that's an
line.
iconic hook of that movie.
Uh-huh.
That and Show Me the Money. Those are
Yeah.
like the two big hooks on it. And then they wrote that song about it. But I think that if we went through and down Michael Garvin's, if we had an encyclopedic knowledge of all the sitcoms on TV, and then we looked at all the songs he's written and gotten cut, we'd be like, oh crap,
Yeah.
that's Smash, that's Seinfeld, that's
Friends, that's Frasier.
yeah, just a little. It just goes by so fast. It might not even be that showcase
moment.
hook.
Yeah.
And it might not be a big moment, but the dialogue is there. I mean, holy crap! Like, what could you get out of any Aaron Sorkin movie?
Mm-hmm.
Or any or any Quentin
I was
Tarantino,
thinking
like those
Tarantino.
two.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Okay, so I'm just thinking, just right now. So this just happened, just while we're talking, right? I'm thinking Aaron Sorkin. I'm thinking there's a really freaking huge line at the end of A Few Good Men. You know, it's like, hey, you don't have to have a badge to have honor. You don't have to wear a badge. You don't have to have a badge in your arm to have honor. Like,
Yeah.
what could you do with that? Like song title challenge. What?
Yeah.
That was such a huge line, and he's like 10 hut, you know, and it's like a big moment. But that is like, whoa,
Yeah. Of course, the
you
big
know,
line from that was, you can't handle the truth. Was
yeah,
was a
yeah.
big line from A Few Good Men. But yeah, any of those that are great dialogue writers. Tarantino. I mean, if I were to watch Pulp Fiction again, that'd be interesting to try and pull out song titles.
Yeah,
You know?
for the sole purpose of just doing that. I mean, so you know how Julia Cameron's Artist Way, and she talks about like your artist date. You have to have an artist date
Yeah.
like once or twice a week. Well, you could make this one of your artist dates. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like just sit down for one sitcom. It's a half an hour of your day.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up anything. Turn up the
Captioning.
turn on
And
the captioning,
get your notebook out.
and just focus on the words.
Mm-hmm.
And don't even look at what's happening in the TV. Like don't focus on the acting. Don't focus on the visual. Just on the captions and listening, and watching that. So you got audio, you got visual coming in, and then see what you come up with. And I think it's like, wow,
Yeah. Well, basically,
that could be
that's the
interesting.
same thing you can do with a lyric video, because
Yeah,
that's basically
yeah,
closed captioning for the song. And you're just looking not for the title, that's the title of that song, but for the just a line in there
yep,
or a word or a phrase, something that'll hit you. And then you
yeah.
start filling up the front of that, the top of that funnel. So yeah, I'm glad we went back to dive into that a little bit more. So we have song title habit, we have song title challenge. And so that's working it down the funnel, right? To work on like what's going to be the song. Another way I stay inspired is co-writing, because we don't always write my ideas, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm fine with that. I always want to come with ideas, and most of the ideas I've been bringing into co-writes for a while now have come from my song title challenge, because that's just where
Mm-hmm.
I'm developing ideas. And that's not always. Sometimes they're newer stuff, but a lot of this stuff is old titles that I've put the work in, and so it makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel very confident walking into co-writes when I have a stack of lyrics. And people love to see me coming in with stacks of lyrics. Like, ooh, what's in the box? You know,
Yeah.
what you got for me today?
You're like,
You know?
sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not ready yet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what have you got? So I love that feeling.
Smack their hand.
Mhm. Yep.
Smack their hand away from the
I'll tell
box.
you when
Like,
it's
nope.
ready. But yeah, we don't always write my ideas, but I like to show up. It can make me feel more confident and like I'm respecting their time. That I'm going to bring in some stuff to the buffet, some dishes to the buffet. But like recently, I was writing with an artist who had just broken up with his girlfriend, and he had a title. And so he had, I broke up, and here's the title. But we didn't know exactly what that title meant, but it came from the breakup. But we decided to song title challenge it basically, and we kept spinning it till we found something we all liked, and then we're all inspired. Let's go, and we wrote the song, and that was somebody else's title that just dropped in. And that's part of what's good about doing your song title challenge. It builds that into like muscle memory of like somebody throws out a title and you go, okay, what all could this be? Not just what could this be, but like what all could this be? Let's
Yeah.
come up with some different angles, and you just keep bouncing. And you start training your co-writers to do that too, because when good things happen a time or two, that's where you're going to start like, let's just keep going. Like John Cleese. Might it be
Yeah.
funnier if we did, this is
Yeah.
funny, but might it be funnier if we did this other thing here? And
Yeah.
and so that's great. So it's not always my ideas. Other people may have stuff going on, stuff on their heart, some sort of drama, love, whatever, all the stuff. And then we tap into that, and I'm helping them tell their story. And that can be inspiring. Or they have some great, musical riff or vibe or track or something, and that can be inspiring. So not only do so that's relying on other people's inspiration to help me get inspired. That's a great way to get inspired. And it's just that energy of people being in the room. This podcast is more fun because I have you in the virtual room, Johnny, than if I were just
Yeah.
pontificating myself and stuff comes up and stories I wouldn't have thought of, or something pings off it. And so it's not all out of my head, which I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate. So co-writing is a way to help kind of stay
Same.
inspired. Thank you. The other thing that keeps me inspired is bills.
Paying the bills.
Paying the bills, yes. Bills. I have bills to pay, and there are 7 mouths in my house that need to be fed, 8 if you count the dog, and the dog likes to eat too. So I have every incentive to sit down and write and fill up that funnel and work songs through that funnel. And I mean, no joke, that is an inspiration. That keeps me inspired.
Sure.
That inspires me to sit down. And sometimes, just the daily life stuff inspires songs, but really what that does is that inspires me to sit my butt down and work on the song, because we have bills to pay. But also, I want to keep doing this. I've had a day job before. I don't want to go back.
So like, I think if you understand, if you come to number one, understand. Actually, number one, embrace. Number two, understand, and then number three, trust the process of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you write to be inspired instead of wait to be inspired
Yeah.
to write. Then you know, like, right, then you know. But the only way that the first is things you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The second thing is you have to understand it. You have to understand that I'm going to embrace this, and I have to keep doing this, and I'm going to find that groove. Like, you're going to find that groove, and then now you trust it. Now you walk in the room knowing that you can't see the full staircase. In faith, right?
Yeah.
You only see the next step, and you just have to take it one step at a time, but you will climb the staircase to do that.
It's like the headlights on a car. If you're driving, you got 100 miles to drive, and you start off after dark, you click on your headlights, how far can you see in front of you? Not that far. Definitely not the whole 100 miles, but you know what? You can make the whole trip that way.
Yeah.
And it's
amazing
trusting
how that works, right?
Do what?
It's amazing how that works.
It is amazing how that works. And it is. It's totally trusting the process, that if I sit down and I do the work and I do it consistently, not every day is it going to work out, for the best, but every day it's working, right? You may not be every day, oh my gosh, this title that I randomly came across or whatever is amazing. It's the best thing I've done. I'm not going to be that way every day, but that doesn't mean the process isn't working. You're building your chops. You mentioned honoring the muse when the muse strikes. Part of what you're doing is you're building your muscle and how to build songs so that when that great idea comes at you and it shows up in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day on a random Tuesday or whatever, unexpected, now you know what to do with it. You've done the work, you've done the reps, and now you can chase it. And now you can treat it the way it deserves to be treated. I mean, we've probably all heard great ideas or great titles that ended up in mediocre songs. And you're like, oh man, they didn't nail it. They didn't nail it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the chops yet. They kind of outkicked their coverage. They didn't know, they had a great potential that never lived up to that potential. And so part of showing up every day is
they Ryan Leafed it.
So part of showing up every day is going, okay, when the moment arrives, I'm going to match the moment because I've been preparing for this every day. And so that's a way to honor the muse.
So musically, just a couple of things I'll throw in there. Like, I used to love to have, so a lot of y'all out there, you got, multiple guitars, right?
Heck, even I have multiple guitars.
There you go. There you go. So I would love often to have, I'd always have one guitar tuned differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like an open tuning.
Yeah.
Right? And if I had an opening that way, because sometimes you just like pick it up, you sit down, you just pick it up, and then you do something, and it's just like that first thing, because it just sounds so different. It just taps into this sort of, it opens up another portal really quick, So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, all of my guitars are tuned differently. They're all, none of them are tuned correctly. They're all out of tune.
They were in tune when I bought them. I don't know what's happened. I'm going to get my money back.
I know, they're all out of tune differently. Anyway.
And then the other thing too is like, I used to like to bounce back and forth between, if I got stuck on something, right? Like to go try to, if I'm trying to write it on guitar and then I just go to piano, and I suck at piano. Let make no mistake. I'm friggin' horrible at it, but I can plunk around on it. And just because it's laid out differently, all of a sudden I can find a place that I want to go,
Yeah.
or find a certain sort of chord, and it was, and it was cool.
Mm.
And then the other thing too that's kind of fun is I think of I want to say it was American Kids, and from Kenny
Yeah.
Chesney, and I believe that the story behind that song was when the other writers kind of came in, the guy who got that groove, boom, 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 boom,
Mhm.
like he had it on the bass. He just had this like funky
Yeah.
thing going on the bass, and then they're like, oh yeah, like let's write that. That's cool, and so here's there's no chords, it's just notes,
Yeah.
but he had this feel, and it was just so he's just on a different instrument that maybe you're not normally going to write
Uh-huh.
on a bass, but man, there's so many, you know, bass grooves that are just super um that are just
Just catchy.
super groovy,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, catchy. That just feels good. Just feels good, And that's really cool. And from a producer perspective, you come in, you've got a job that you got to do. We're going to record this, we're going to record that. But then, like, I've had a lot of luck with just when something happens and the artist kind of goes to this place
Mhm.
that's maybe not on the agenda for today that we need to do,
Yeah.
but it's like a really good place. You like just shut up and press record.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just get it because something different's happening,
Mhm.
um and that's cool too. And also in the studio, like when actually we go into track, like I'll have in pre-production a pretty good idea of where I want it to go and where I want it to be,
Mhm.
but I'm not closed off to um so there's like so in Nashville, when you're tracking and everybody gets in the room and they've heard the track, they've got the chart, they're gonna sit down, we're gonna render, right? We're gonna cut this damn thing
Yeah.
right now. And they start, picking their weapon of choice, the guitar player's I'm gonna use this color on this, guitar and instead of this guitar because I like this color or that color. And everybody's just kind of playing around. And then all of a sudden, maybe the guitar player's playing with a delay or something. It's like totally different than what you did. But I just always kind of lay back and watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I remember with on that tracking session that we did with Neil Schuyler, right? You co-wrote one of those songs
Yeah.
on there with her. And there's another one that I think Dean Madonia wrote with her. And man, we had this. They just start doing something weird
Yeah.
like before, and so it's not like it's not go time, right?
Yeah.
But it's countdown. It's like T minus 4 minutes
Yeah.
to the downbeat on this particular thing, right? Or maybe even it's a T minus 2 minutes, but
Mhm.
they're just kind of messing around. Somebody did something, somebody else is like, oh, and then they kind of cut on, and we're like, but it's in the chart, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they're following that same sort of blueprint. We're like, oh yeah, just press record on that. Let's just,
Yeah.
and that's the way that song ended up going, So sometimes it's also being open to some other stimulus,
Yeah. I think that's great. I mean, there's so many, people use, drum tracks, loops. There's
Mhm.
apps for that you can get on your phone if you just want to shake it up. Is loops. I've heard Steve Seskin talk about writing without your instrument. Just start
Yeah.
vocalizing melodies, and then you can find the
Yep.
chords because you tend to have that muscle memory, and you do the same grooves and the same chord
Mhm.
progressions all ad nauseum, like it's the same one all the time. There I start with my default groove. But then if you just start singing melodies, then you find the chords or the notes underneath it. It may be radically different than
Yeah.
if you'd started with the guitar. I've heard,
Secret to Burt Bacharach's success right there.
okay,
Sings the melody
there you
first.
go. And it's worked for him. Another thing is, yeah, kind of like you alluded to, Johnny, with the piano, is pick up an instrument you don't know, like you don't know how to
Yeah.
play, and just see what comes out. For me, that's every instrument.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. There are. I'm looking at BeatStars right now. So it's beatstars.com,
Uh-huh.
and basically it's these people go in, they make all these tracks, they produce all these tracks, and then you can lease them, you can buy them, you can have exclusive rights to
Mhm.
it, that kind of stuff. But you can just listen to it, and every once in a while they have the audio watermark of BeatStars. But and there are some different things like that, and it's just like, oh, here's a track with like full instrumentation but no melody for like top
Yeah.
lining. And I thought about getting on there just to practice my top lining, to see like what would I do here melodically and phrasing wise, and to bring something
Yeah.
else in, just to get a start, and then not use their track or whatever, but just as here's a guideline to get going with the
Yeah.
melody. And so something like that might be cool to go, oh, here's like a full finished track of all different genres, and I'm just going to see what kind of melody or lyrics pop off the top of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the other things I've done too is like I think one of the favorite songs I've written is I was trying like hell to steal the Beatles' "Don't Let Me Down."
yeah.
I was trying to plagiarize the crap out of that, right? Because there's like that for those first two chords,
Uh-huh.
that first interval, it just don't let me down.
Mhm.
And I was just trying so hard to write something that cool,
Yeah.
and it just ended up being this Frankenstein. It's nowhere near it, but intentionally, like, I was morally corrupt. I was gonna steal the fire out of that song. And then it ended up being this totally different thing. I didn't wanna be your hero, and
Mhm.
and it just was awesome, man. And I almost got that synced in a Spider-Man movie. I mean, I've had some close calls with that,
Yeah.
and I haven't even ever been pushing it. You know what I mean? It just is kind of friends like, man, that song, like, can I do this? I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, but that was just it was a nefarious act right out of the gate. I admit.
Well, so, sometimes when I've been trying to find like an angle on a song, it might be, I'm doing my song title challenge, but first I'm listening to some playlist stuff. Just, for me, it's usually country. And I was listening to, one the other day as I'm looking through my titles, and then just the song I was listening to and the title I was looking at, I was like, oh, boom. All right. Like that artist would do it.
Yeah,
Like
now you
that
connected the
kind of
dot that needed to
vibe. Of
happen.
course, I'm not writing melody, so I'm not jacking their melody. It's my title. So it's going to be different, but going,
Right.
oh, if it's got this kind of attitude, this kind of energy, this kind of lane, I found the actor, right, for this
Yeah.
movie. And
Yeah,
now
for
it's
the
like,
role. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And so that can be a way to figure some stuff out. Going, I got this title, I'm not sure where to go with it. You can ask yourself, go, how would Chris Jansen do this? How would Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett do this? How would,
Yeah.
I don't know, whoever, Whitesnake
How would
do this? How would
Megadeth do
Megadeth
this?
do
Yeah.
this? How would Eminem do this? How would,
Yeah.
Megan Thee Stallion do this? Whatever. And it's going to lead you down different roads. But that's a way to shake it up and go, oh, okay, this would be cool. Especially when you think of melodically, vibe wise, lyrical, tone, language, all that stuff. I mean, I've unlocked some songs before going, working with a writer going, we're kind of stuck on this. I'm not really sure. It's kind of ballady. Then one of us goes, how would so-and-so write, sing this, an artist that was hot at the time. We're like, oh, they definitely have this kind of groove. And all of a sudden it became this cool thing. We're like, that's it,
And the log jam
and
goes
the log
away.
jam
Yeah, the log
totally
jam goes
went away.
away.
Our plumber's block went away. So
Okay, so two things. So one is, like, you and I are always talking about, tempo,
Yeah.
right? And right now, like, every songwriter listening to this podcast has I promise you, an ungodly overabundance of slow ballads.
right. Yeah.
So go back to any of those ballads and grab that beat, just grab a beat, just grab a drum machine beat that's a mid tempo or even an up tempo,
Uh-huh.
and then take that song and try to morph it.
Yeah.
One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to have like a really good time creating a different version of a song that you already wrote, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this friggin' works way better.
Yeah.
Right. Or two, you're just going to go off on another rabbit hole because it's going to inspire you to do something different. And you're in mid-tempo or up-tempo world, which is really cool. And the last thing I would also tell you too, like lyrically, and I wonder if you've ever done this, Brent. I think you're much more you're much more intentional about certain things. But let's just say it's it could be a creative little piece of dynamite that could blow up the logjam, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the David Bowie thing, man.
Oh.
Like, he used to have the lyrics that he had, and then he would cut them out. He would write them down on a piece of paper and cut out each of the words, and then just start rearranging stuff.
Yeah.
just moving stuff around and just so now it's like I don't have to think about a word. What if I put these two together and these two together?
Yeah.
And what happens? And then sometimes that ends up being the lyric, but then sometimes it just because now you're just out of thinking about what you're going to write next.
Mhm.
And you're just look again, it's kind of like lyrically going from the guitar to the piano,
Yeah.
right? Where it's just going to be all laid out in front of you, and you're out of that, like you said, you get in a rut playing the same groove and the
Mhm.
same, so it's just another little trick that could be a log jam breaker where all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, why didn't I think about it this way? And then there we go, and then off you go.
Yeah, what would be cool, it's not like that magnetic, refrigerator poetry that
Yeah,
everybody used to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
What would be cool would be if you could like scan in like, I don't know, a bunch of Taylor Swift lyrics and then hit like the
Mhm.
randomizer, like groups of 3. And this is going to start just boop, boop, random, like jumbling taking the words apart and then putting them back together in random orders, groups of 3, like all these potential titles, and go, what do I got? What do I got? Oh, there's
Oh
something
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, man. There you go.
That would be, let's get
That's
that app
fun.
going. But yeah, just copy stuff in, throw it in there, and I don't know how you just randomize them. But the same kind of thing of just putting it together. For me, I'd be looking for titles because once I kind of get going on, what the idea is,
Once you get going on your lyric groove,
yeah,
yeah,
for me
yeah,
that'd
yeah.
be more like looking for titles.
Yeah, I mean, it could be verse, it could be title, same thing. Yeah, you just sort of put all these things together and then just pop them out.
Mhm,
I bet you could do that if you put a bunch of different words um, into Excel,
mhm, yeah,
right? And then you just found different ways to shuffle them.
that's true. Yeah, columns. I remember at NSAI years ago that was an exercise they had us do one night at a workshop. It was like, make a long list of nouns, like make a long list of adjectives, and then
Adjectives,
a
yeah,
list of something else or whatever, and then just start randomly, kind of, call out a number 15, 32,
yeah,
45. Boom, boom, boom. Now I have sweet tornado hummus.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
interesting.
yeah, and you just start
And
jumbling
right there,
together.
sweet tornado.
Well,
Go
that was
go on.
that was one
Like
of the ones that we came up with that night. I've never forgotten.
that's really
But it
cool.
was
Yeah,
like an adjective and a noun, and somebody yelled out sweet, and somebody yelled out tornado. We're like, ooh, everyone kind of went, ooh, that is good. It could be about kids.
yeah.
It could be about, and that's one that seriously it's been over a decade, and I still remember that one from that exercise in that, at that
Yeah,
NSAI workshop.
there
I
you
just had
go.
it a hummus just now because we have some in the fridge I'm looking forward to. But yeah, that's just ways to fill up the top of that funnel, and maybe that's again just working until you're inspired, not waiting to be inspired. But that's what we
I
got
love
going
it,
on.
man.
So
That's
hopefully
killer.
that's a good answer. So I'm just going to email her back and tell her to listen to episode 319. When that person that emailed me at the
That's
beginning
right.
going, how do you stay inspired? Episode 319.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Really? There's an episode that inspires you?
And seriously, if
Yeah,
y'all have questions,
kind of.
hit us up in the Climb community. It may prompt an episode.
Well, no, how about this? Let's do a challenge. Like when this episode drops, like if you're in the climb community,
Hmm.
go to the climb community and comment below what do you do to get
Yeah.
inspired and share it with the class. And if you're not in the climb community, go join the climb community and then go do that.
Right. Facebook.com/group/the Climb community.
Correct.
Hmm.
Cool.
That's what I got. So,
All right.
yep. And also right now, well, actually, this will be over by the time we're done. I was going to announce a play for publisher, but that's going to be over by the time this drops. So drop on by songwritingpro.com/recap. It'll let you know what we have going on, like the newest blog poster there. If we have any events going on, any stuff for members, our newest artist insight report will be listed there that you can take a look at. I think currently we have, let's see, we just had one with Keith Urban. We have different people going on. We dive into their newest album and like break down the songs, the songwriters, the keys, the BPMs, all that stuff to kind of prep you if you want to write a song for Keith Urban, all that good stuff. So that's the songwritingpro.com/recap. It's a fun place to go. That's all I got.
Oh, right on. All right. Oh, and one final thing. This is completely separate from everything we've talked about
All right.
today. But I just want to share this because I just listened to it. But we've talked about Bob Lefsetz before
Yeah.
on the podcast. So he's got his own podcast, and the new interview just dropped, and it's like freaking Dan Huff.
Oh, cool.
So whether you're from the rock community or you're from the country community, like you're gonna love this interview. It's like 2.5 hours, man, and it's friggin' awesome.
Oh, wow.
Super, super interesting. Because if from the rock community, he came from Giant. He did so many killer recordings. He played a lot on that Whitesnake record. He was a big session player, and then he's best friends with Mutt Lange, and then Mutt Lange's the one that kind of talked him into producing. So
Thank you, Mutt.
Yeah. Thank you, Mutt. That the world
For
hates you.
many reasons.
Anyway, this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.